What's up, desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and in this video I'm doing my wrap up and review of the prejudging from the 2022 California Pro. We've got the top four here, which includes Tony Burton, Charles Griffin, Mo Shaban, and Andrea Muzzi. We're going to go pose by pose, or at least the ones we've got. We've got some photos, we've got a little bit of video footage as well. There was no live stream of this show, which I was sort of surprised at. I just sort of assumed that was going to be on. Logged onto the website, had a look around, couldn't find it, but we do have some photos here courtesy of Flex. So let's get straight to it. So let's go to that front double bicep. From the left, we've got Tony Burton, we've got Charles Griffin second on the left, Mo Shaban, and then Andrea Muzzi on the far right. Something I found interesting about this show as well, Andrea Muzzi, it was the first time I predicted him much lower than he actually is going to finish. I typically predict him much higher because his pre-contest photos are so crazy. This time he's actually pushed into that top four and he's looking really, really good. But let's get into this one. So for front double bicep, you can see on the left, Tony Burton looks crazy on this shot. You can see how round and full his quads are. He's in great condition, huge arms. Really, you can't fault that shot too much whatsoever. Charles Griffin second on the left. I've got to tell you, I think Tony Burton wins this front double bicep because Charles Griffin, he looks fantastic. His arms are awesome. Good vacuum, much better pose than last year. And then you got Mo Shaban, who is absolutely enormous. You look at his quads, especially in this lineup as well, because Charles is sort of, known as not having the biggest quads, although they have come up quite a lot actually, and his adductors are huge now, so his actual leg is quite big. But you look at Mo Shaban's, and he has the huge teardrops, like they're just crazy quads. But I don't think Mo Shaban is in quite... I mean, he looks in great condition in all the pre-contest stuff. Like, he's got absolute striations everywhere. It's just maybe he's not quite as dry, I'd say, as Charles Griffin here. Because Charles Griffin looks like he's etched from stone. And Mo Shaban, while he's in good condition, wouldn't say he's in, like, super dry, etched out condition, just like Charles Griffin. But, still looks crazy impressive on his front double because his abs are so crazy. And then Andrea Muzzi on the far right, great quads. The way he hits his pose is actually pretty good. Hits a bit of a vacuum. Not quite as impressive as these other guys, I'd say, in this pose, but he's on the far right, so he has a slight disadvantage based on where his photo is taken from. Then we've got the front lat spread. Tony Burton again on the far left looks absolutely insane here. Charles Griffin, I don't know what he's doing, but he looks unusually tall in this pose. He is just crazy dense. I wouldn't say he looks as crazy as Tony Burton on this pose, but Tony Burton is on the far left, so he might have a slight advantage. Then you got Mo Shaban, who, looks crazy because of the quads from the front, but he's leaning back maybe a little bit too far, because if this is from a judge's perspective, this photo, then I think he's just sort of closing himself off a little bit. Needs to maybe from the hips lean forward a little bit. And then Andrea Muzzi looks crazy on this shot. I think he looks fantastic. He's hitting sort of the old school European way where they pull the posing trunks right up. I don't like the fact that he's pulling the posing trunks right up like that, but the way he's hitting the pose looks fantastic and really suits his physique. So on this pose, I might have Tony Burton, maybe Andrea Muzzi, or Charles Griffin winning this pose. It's sort of a pretty close one, but yeah, I'd have one of those guys winning it. On the side chest, I'd say Tony Burton needs to pull that front shoulder back a little bit, but it's such a crazy shot for him. He's got that good separation between the glutes, hams, quads, really dense upper body. If he can drop that front shoulder a little bit, pull it back a tiny bit more, I think he could potentially win this shot. But Charles Griffin second on the left is granite. You're looking at that upper body. And on the video as well, I saw a bit of it, and you can sort of, when they're moving, you can see how he wins this shot and how crisp he actually is. So I'd say Charles Griffin hands down wins this shot, probably with Tony Burton in a close second, maybe Mo Shaban in third, and then Andrea Muzzi in fourth. Now we go to the most muscular, and I know this is only 4 shots of these top 4, but we do have shots of a first call out as well, which has 5 competitors, which includes Peter Clancia. But we've got the most muscular here, Tony Burton on the far left. If he could pull his midsection back a tiny bit more, that pose would just be just about lights out, but still a crazy pose. Round quads, awesome delts, just really round, dense muscle. Charles Griffin second on the left. I mean, he's absolutely etched from stone here. He's in crazy condition. Then you got Mo Shaban, who is huge on this pose. And then you got Andrea Muzzi on the far right. So they all sort of have their strengths on this pose. Andrea Muzzi looks quite balanced, I'd say, head to toe. Mo Shaban looks like an absolute freak. Charles Griffin is etched from stone. And then Tony Burton is probably the combination of all of them with really dense, round muscle. So that one's really tough to call for me. I'd probably say Charles Griffin just on conditioning on that one. Then Mo Shaban and Tony Burton, I'd say, in second. Now let's go through the first call-out photos. And in this, I'd say Andrea Muzzi, I think you're seeing that his tan probably isn't quite on. Here, it looks a little bit, I don't know, yellow and washed out. So I think that might actually hurt him a little bit, although he is obviously in the top 4. But you can see Peter Clancy here on the far right. He's the first addition to that. Charles Griffin in the middle looks a little bit washed out on his pose, and Mo Shaban looks a little bit more impressive, I'd say. Tony Burton still looks great on the far left, and this photo looks like it's a little bit more from the center potentially. Then you've got the front lat spread. You can see Andrea Muzzi looks crazy in that pose, but I think he's standing a little bit further forward because he looks way bigger than Mo Shaban here. And we know that Mo Shaban, by these other photos, is the biggest guy in this lineup, in my opinion, or at least in this first call out. But still, these other guys looking great here. I don't know if Charles Griffin is fully in the pose on that one, so you can't really judge him on that. Then you got the side chest, and I think, yeah, there's a clear advantage to the far left guys here, actually. With Andrea Muzzi looking so big and Mo Shaban looking pretty good, and then Peter Clancy and Antonio Burton actually sort of look smaller on this one. Even Charles Griffin looks a little bit smaller on this one. The back double bicep, now we're getting to see this shot for the first time. Andrea Muzzi on the far left, I think you can see sort of how his weaknesses show up a little bit here. His back isn't quite to the level of these other guys, because there's a lot of good backs up on that stage. You look at Charles Griffin there in the middle. He is really, really hard head to toe. Very, very dense. Super, super impressive. Mo Shaban has a lot of round muscle on that back double bicep. I'd say his delts and a few other body parts here aren't quite as crisp from the back, but he is crazy muscular. And then you got Tony Burton second on the right. I think he looks amazing here, head to toe. The only thing I'd say is probably from the waist down, he's not quite as crisp as Charles Griffin. But I'd say from the waist up, he potentially wins this shot because he's really, really conditioned. He's got bubbly muscle. I mean, I'd have him winning that shot from the waist up, even though Charles Griffin is crazy. Just from the waist down, he's not quite as crisp. So I don't know if you'd say overall Tonio takes this one or if you'd say Charles Griffin, but I'd say one of those guys. I mean, Peter Clancy on the right, I think he looks pretty damn impressive in that back double bicep as well. Very well conditioned. I think it's the best condition we've seen from Peter Clancy at this point. Then the rear lat spread, which we didn't see in that top 4 call out as well. And I've got to say, Charles Griffin always looks great in these back shots. His back is just so impressive in that back lat spread. So I'd probably say Charles Griffin on this one. I'd say Tonio Burton in a second place. And then it'd be a toss-up between Peter Clancy and Mo Shaban, in my opinion. And then we move on to the side tricep, another pose we didn't see from that top 4 call out. And they're all sort of transitioning a little bit. Very, very hard to judge, but at least you guys can see this here. Charles Griffin looks super conditioned, so maybe you'd say him on that one. Then you got the ab and thigh pose. Charles Griffin's hitting a vacuum, which obviously suits his physique a lot more than crunching down on his abs, just because they're not as symmetrical as some of these other guys. So I think that's smart if he can get away with it, and that's sort of his pose, because pulling a vacuum like that when you got that much thick muscle at that height is super, super impressive. Tony Burton, I think he's pulling over a little bit too much. If he could stand taller and sort of flex his hip, push his hips forward to hit his ab and thigh pose, I think it'd look a little bit better, but his quads obviously look outstanding. Not the best angle for the photo. You can see some of these guys are angled in, taking a step forward and sort of distorts things a little bit. So that's a tough one to judge for me. And then we've got the most muscular once again. I've got to tell you, Andrea Muzzi looks very impressive there, but I think he's a slight step forward ahead of these other guys. Mo Shaban is huge, second on the left. So impressive. Peter Clancy looks really, really good here as well. And then Charles Griffin is super, super hard. So that one also is very tough to judge. And here's some video footage we can watch together. And, obviously on a pretty rough angle for really judging this show. But at least you can see these guys in movement. You can see Mo Shaban has a lot more shine on and oil, which sort of makes his physique pop a little bit. And while he's not as conditioned, I think that sort of helps him a tiny bit. But you can see all these guys look fantastic. And like I mentioned in the preview, this is a super close show. Andrea Presti, who got second last weekend at New York Pro, is not even in the top 5, according to that first call out. So I was saying, 1 to 8 is going to be super, super close. And it seems like it's going to play out that way as well. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Who do you have winning this show? What's your top 3? I think I've predicted my top 3 correct, but just probably not in order. I think Tonio Burton to win, Charles Griffin in second, and Mo Shaban in third. Seems like that might be the top 3. But let me know if you think Andrea Muzzi can push into that top 3 and knock out either a Tonio Burton or a Mo Shaban. But it's going to be a great show. If you guys like and appreciate this content, please give this video a thumbs up, smash that like button, also subscribe and hit the notification bell button. That way you'll be notified of every video that goes up from myself, Xavier Wills at Desktop Bodybuilding. Also head to hdmuscle.com, enter the code DESKTOP, or click the link in the description below and you'll save yourself 10% off your entire order. Even if there are sales on there already, you'll get an additional 10% off. So make sure you use that code or click the link in the description below. It'll do the same thing, I believe, and take that 10% off automatically in cart. So that's it for me. For Xavier Wills, Desktop Bodybuilding, we are out.